morning. Good morning. How y'all doing? Good. You made it to the conference.
We made it.
Give yourself some love for that. You made it. You made it. Are there any introverts in the building? How y'all feeling about this whole networking thing? Yeah? Got your small talk? How's the weather? How is the drive? Where are you going to eat later? Just use those go-tos and we're going to be, you're like, woosah, woosah. We are here for Choose to Be Super. How wearing a cape makes you a hero. This is one of my favorite workshops to present. I came up with this because in the same week, I had to do a keynote for about 400 young people, which I was nervous for because young people, it was 2 hours too. To maintain their attention for 2 hours, what? And then in that same week, equally scary, I had to do a 2-day team building session for clinicians, which was probably more terrifying. Are there any clinicians in the building? I'm sorry. Both sessions end up working out because I created this thing called C.A.P.E, which is inspired by my tiny superhero, my little girl. And that's why you see this right here. Anytime I go for work and travel, she makes me take a toy with her because then she says, now I know you're going to come back. Aww. Are we ready to get started? Yes. Let's talk about it. Let me tell you a little bit about my C.A.P.E experience. First of all, there's that guy right there. That was me straight out of college, making $29,000 a year. Woo! Balling, right? I'm telling you. What? That credit card just, get it. Give me my money, right? I thought in that picture that working with people would be easy. That guy thought that if you're just like, if you just communicate effectively and you're nice, people will communicate effectively with you and they'll be nice right back. Life is good. That's why he's smiling like that, by the way. That was me with my button down. I bought that button down with Kohl's cash because I was only making $29,000 a year. That's the only one I owned. I iron that thing every day in the morning. Like, yeah, ready to go to work. Life is so good. Part of my work, I was a group home worker. That was probably the hardest job I ever had. That was in South St. Pete. That was a co-ed group home, girls on one side, boys on the other, and then that just one desk in the middle. Whew, learned a lot about change in that situation. Then I was the director of a YMCA. That was my first leadership job. I was so proud. And then I learned if you're a leader, a salaried worker, how that's different than being hourly. Because if you're salaried, that means you're there for everything all the time. So I learned a lot about that. Then I was an area manager of a federally funded Department of Labor program. That was working with adults, where I came from working with young people. And I learned a lot about, wait a minute, you gotta approach these things differently based off of the age. A transition director, that's where I ran a program across Florida that served 145 of the most at-risk young people per day. And when I say most at-risk, it's either make a change now or it's prison or worse. And now Speak for MC. Does anybody know what Speak for MC stands for?
No.
Speak for. I don't know why I ask this every time and my heart just breaks slowly when people are like, That's why we're here. Speak for motivating change. I'll talk about that in a second. So if that's the guy that came into this field saying, it's easy, things are great, 29,000 balling, right? Can I show you, stop laughing at my 29,000. Can I show you a picture of me about 6 to 7 months into the job?
Sure.
Well, I mean, maybe he's happy. Maybe we're just like, oh, maybe. Let's see what he looks like. There he is. Look, I don't even got my clothes button down on anymore. The shirt's on the back. I didn't even iron it. I don't got time to iron these clothes anymore. This is nonsense, right? Working with people is hard. You chose a field that is it's the hardest thing. You work when you talk about having to help people change and motivate them to do things that make them uncomfortable. It's hard. I'll give you some examples here. At that leadership job, I ran my very first meeting. Right? I had my agenda. I was so proud. At the end of the meeting, I was just thinking to myself, wow, I did it. I crushed it, right? Leadership on display. This guy was the guy, right? So at the end, I just was like, hey, does anybody have any questions before we wrap up? And one lady said, I got a question. And by the way, if someone raises their hand like this and says, I got a question, they don't have a question. They want to tell you something. And what she wanted to tell me is, you're a jerk. That's not a question. But she decided to, I guess, phrase it in a question, like in a room full of people. As an area manager, I said I came from the juvenile justice world, went to the Department of Labor world with adults. I thought I was crushing it again until I show up to my office one day and HR is sitting in my office saying your managers have been calling and said they want you to leave. They don't want you here. They say you're micromanaging them. Maybe this isn't for you. Ooh, boy, all right. I'm telling you, I'm not ironing nothing no more. I'm just coming in, right? As a transition director, that was a good one. Went to a meeting with HR. Apparently, the feedback that I was giving to one of my staff, I viewed it as constructive. They did not. And he says, you've been attacking me. You've been saying all these things. You are not supporting me. You're creating a hostile environment. I said, that's not true. What are you talking about? Where's the proof? He said, well, I've been recording you. I said, oh, you might got some proof? He wasn't really recording me. That's just what he said. But I was like, wow, like this is what we're doing. In every one of these situations, I've realized and I'm reminded of something very important. Who we are in our purest form, like who we actually are at our core, is revealed during adversity. It's revealed during the toughest times. Anybody can do the right things and be happy and optimistic when things are going well, but what do you do when they're not? And back on this theme about capes and heroes, it also kind of made me think about the Marvel movies I like to watch with my little one. It's the heroes and it's the villains in every one of these movies, right? The heroes and the villains, heroes and the villains. What I thought was really interesting is that the heroes and the villains, they tend to have like similar stories. They go through adversity, both of them. They have a clear vision on what they want to do about it. They tend to be very motivated to get their stuff done, right? But the main difference between the heroes and the villains is when the villain goes through adversity, when the villain goes through pain, when bad stuff happens, the villain points out and says, who can I blame it on? Who can I take this pain out on? Who can I make feel like how I feel now? That's the villain. But the hero, they point within. And they say, what can I do better?